A children's book is out about a subject, ALS, that may not be common in a book for kids, but it touches the lives of two young children right here in eastern Iowa. We followed the ALS battle of Troy Musser, a veteran who, after returning from Afghanistan, wondered why his body just was not working as it should. His 2011 diagnosis of ALS changed his world forever, but also the world for his family, as we'll soon see. His former wife, Laura Kilberg, has written this children's book about ALS, a book that makes the two children they brought into this world superheroes, as their father is still in this relentless fight. It's a Wednesday at the downtown Cedar Rapids Public Library. Story time.
I can hear kids giggling, but I can't see them anywhere, Dad says as he enters after. They must be in here somewhere, but where?
As Laura Kilberg reads the wondrous world of Wren and Will to a packed room of toddlers, it is also the backstory that Troy Musser still lives every day.
As she stands up against the tower, she notices a picture on the wall. She walks over to it. "Is that you, Dad? You can't stand. Why are you standing?" Dad replies, "I didn't always have ALS."
A high school wrestler and a veteran with tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. We followed Troy's story for years. In 2012,
I was diagnosed in October of 2011.
Troy let us see the difficulty he had just tying his shoes. His fingers were losing those precise skills. In late 2014, 3 years into his ALS struggle, we met up with Troy again, now in a wheelchair but still able to speak with us.
Just a normal person, just living a different life than they are.
Now in 2017, Troy's words don't come out anymore. ALS has taken that too. An ALS diagnosis usually means the patient only has between 2 and 5 years to live. Troy has beaten that time frame, even if ALS will eventually shut down one of the capacities that he can still do on his own, breathe. Here's how Laura works into this. Laura and Troy are the parents of Wren and Will. She's 6, he's 5.
You're really small.
They are the superheroes in the book. Laura and Troy divorced after Will was born, but they've remained very close. She has since remarried and has a third child now. The book marks what they want as his legacy as a father to be to their children.
With the diagnosis of ALS, we had a lot of negative, dark days where they were too young to remember. But then it was kind of had this moment where we wanted to put them first, I guess. And for me, it was, what are they going to remember? And I was really focused on having them remember really fun things with Troy.
Wren and Will still come over often to play with their father, to rekindle that sparkle in his eyes that are trapped in a body where his brain remains just as sharp as ever, but the body does not, and it will not follow his commands.
Being a superhero doesn't always mean that you have a magical power. I think a superhero means that you like to help others with a positive attitude. You are superheroes. Super W's to the rescue.
Troy Musser is still a very visible face of ALS in Cedar Rapids. He insists that people ask him about the disease. He's been very willing to be that focus long after the 2014 ALS Ice Bucket Challenge summer may have dried up momentum to find a cure for it.
I don't know what they'll remember because they don't remember the walker or the cane or anything before the wheelchair, really. I think the book will help jog their memory when in the future. Before he lost his voice, he also recorded his voice saying things like,
I love you, Renly. Great job, William.
Common phrases, so he doesn't have to type every sentence out that he can think of.
Troy can type, as we've seen in our Facebook communications setting up this story, but it's a bit complicated. He has to type with his eyes now.
There's a little camera on the computer that Troy will stare at, and it calibrates his eye. The keyboard is on the screen, and so he'll stare at each letter like he's typing with his fingers, only he's typing with his eyes.
Family is a fingerprint that will always touch the hearts of Wren and Will, even as ALS has taken so much of their childhood and also so much of the man that their father had been. The book's colors, the book's drawings soften their memories of the simple, joyful moments of being a father that Troy will always hold in his heart in the time that's left.
Now let's just play. Dad cheers as he watches the superheroes play. The end.
Laura and Troy are also willing to visit schools to let more people, more students know about ALS. For anyone interested in reading the wondrous world of Wren and Will, we have that information along with a contact email address for Laura on our web story. Just go online and connect with KCRG.com.
The next screen where you select
Let's first meet Alyssa Quinn. She's 26. She's gone from Cedar Rapids to see the world and come back again.
I joined the Iowa Army National Guard in 2009. as a medic.
The journey sent Alyssa to Texas for training, back to Cedar Rapids with her unit, eventually to Northern California.
Kind of lonely, like any normal person would be when they travel somewhere else, wanting to meet new people who are like them. The kind of people I wanted to be around were people like me who had a military background. So I had this crazy idea, well, what if there was an app that did this that's just for military, for vets and for current military members?
Alyssa's time as a medic means hundreds of connections with that shared experience, including a name some of us will always remember.
He's Hutch to me and to a lot of people.
Remember that name, Hutch.
We met before I joined the military. We went to basic training. We went to AIT as medics at the same time. We came back to the unit together. We geared up to deploy together. He went forward on the deployment. I came home.
Hutch is Sergeant Jacob Hutchinson, born in 1990 to Sela Gunlubel, an older brother to Maya by 9 years. We first learned about Jacob back in May of 2011. A bomb blast in Afghanistan injured 4 National Guard members from Iowa. The force of the explosion broke both of Jacob's legs. All throughout that weekend, Sela kept us updated by email, sending us pictures so we could tell his story and really her story as well. 3 months later, Maya, the doting little sister, warmed our hearts in a TV9 story by pledging to only wear toe shoes to honor her older brother until he could walk again. She wore those shoes for 7 months. The rehab, though, took a while. 19 months in Texas, 20 surgeries. Then a move to Bloomington, Indiana, where Jacob would enroll at Indiana University. I'll never forget May 8th, 2014, a Thursday. Sela sent me an email, the first I'd heard from her in about 18 months. She wrote in part, "I don't know if you had seen Jacob's obituary or not. Jacob shot himself in his home on April 22nd, 2014. My heart is in pieces over this." Sergeant Jacob Hutchinson only lived 24 years. Sela's follow-up email struck my core. "We thought so much about Jacob's wound that you could see, but the PTSD ended up being the wound that took his life."
And he got all the guys out of his vehicle before he got out himself. And he was the most injured.
More than 3 years after love and support from her family and her closest friends, Sela is ready to talk publicly.
I have people ask me, does it get better? You know, Sela, does it get better for you as a mom? And I very honestly say, it doesn't get better, but it becomes different.
Yet that transition from recovery in Texas to a new environment in Indiana without as much military around.
They just seem somehow to just get each other. As he moved to Indiana, he didn't have that Army community there. And I don't know that it would have changed things for him, and in a way that he would still be here. However, I do feel that that sense of community would have made a difference for him.
The idea is that you are able to see vets in your community. We're not alone with Hutch. He's not the only friend that we've lost. He's just the only one that I've talked about in public.
Perhaps this app to connect can be Jacob's legacy, that the wound in Sela's heart can eventually lead to filling someone else's.
But to see him go on to be a piece of an inspiration for this app, and to motivate somebody that he served with to do something great like this means he's still making a difference.
Scroll through and select your branch of service, say you're in the Navy.
Which has brought Alyssa Quinn closer to launching her app for good. But it's also brought Sela Gunlubel, the mother in this journey that marks her family's life forever.
President Obama, sent a letter, and that means a lot.
To make sure to remember that name, Sergeant Jacob Hutchinson, known to his closest friends as Hutch. Chris Earl, KCRG TV9 News.